All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome here. We are just getting this show on the road. You're here at our monthly used car marketing dealer strategy session. I'm Ryan Girardi. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, whether you're live or maybe watching the video replay later. It's great to have you here. Today is Thursday, November 14th. And for our discussion today, I have a couple of new faces, Guy Campbell and Troy Campbell from Market Check. And then Aaron Gomez is back as well, dialing in from Houston. So, gentlemen, great to have you here.
Great to be here.
And Aaron, it's great to have you back. It's been, I think, almost 6 months since I've
it's been a little while.
Had you up here. So let's do this, folks. I put an announcement up onto the blog. I'm going to show that on my screen here for you. Won't do a whole lot of screen sharing, but we will have some new features today. So we're going to look at today, first talk about this continued hot streak that used cars seems to be on, with SAR just rising month over month over month. Manheim Used Car Vehicle Index has, for the first time in almost 3 years, has posted a year-over-year decline. TrueCar has a new auto buying program with Kroger, and then Guy and Campbell are going to show. They're going to show some reports to us so we can see some of the top trending, top selling vehicles in various markets, including, I think, Texas. You said Chicago.
Yeah, we've got states on all sides: California, Texas, New York, Florida, and then I did a city one too for Chicago.
Okay. Now, if somebody wanted to see their city on the fly, we wouldn't be able to do that on the fly, right? We'd have to come back.
Right now I'm building these manually, but I'm working on kind of a customizable report.
Okay.
In the future, so. Yeah.
So, folks, to let you know, this is, like I said, streamed live, so you can use the interactive chat. If you're watching the replay, you can use the comment section. We keep an eye on those things. If you've got questions and you're here backstage on the Zoom, there is a Q&A option. You can just use that to post your questions. So if you want to participate in that, head on over to the registration page. I'll put that in the show notes for everybody if you don't have it, and you can register to join us back here. We record this and then we feature it on the Auto Converse podcast. And the whole idea here is have a kind of a meeting place that those in the used car business can come to on a monthly basis. We'll talk about the markets and the trends and some new developments, and even get into a little bit of best practices type stuff. So, Aaron, you're in the trenches. I mean, you are buying and selling and talking to customers, and you're hustling and you consult dealers. So bring us up to speed on, you're coming from, you're in Houston. So give us an idea on the pulse that you're seeing there, especially with just continued reports that used cars are really just, the market's just doing really well.
Like we were talking about a little bit earlier, I think that some people are doing incredibly well while others are seeing the traditional October, November, and possibly December slowdown. Used car market at auctions, I'm sure Manheim has reported that the auction values are down, but that's also with a nuance. I mean, I think that the correct inventory, the non-aged inventory that the trades that people are bringing into auctions are still bringing above MMR with good conditions. I think that dealers, as we transition into a new retail climate, are looking for vehicles that they can, everybody's really focused on the 60-day turn and, getting cars retail ready and sellable day one. I think that, that's really kind of changed the way that dealers approach their buying strategies. So I think that the vehicles that are, ready to sell, that they can buy in a local market, that they can hit their, they can buy in the morning and they can hit their dealership in the afternoon, have them pictured up and ready to retail the next day while they're going through their certification recon process. I think that those dealers that are adapting to that strategy are really seeing a lot more success. I mean, their sales are showing it. The market analysis is showing that we're, end over end doing better. I think that not everybody would agree with that. Half of Houston would say it's been slow, I can't sell a car. But if you cross the fence, the other half would probably be saying that, hey, we're doing great.
I was going to add that kind of color in there. If when the market is hot like it is, you should be doing well. I think you can't get lazy and you can't cut corners, but is it fair to say most dealers are doing really well with used cars now, or is it only if they've got the right dials in?
No, I think we're starting to see a real evolution of professionals in the auto industry that are not the quote unquote car guy. They're the analysts, and they're the data miner. They're the guys that follow the trends and are able to look at, everybody like talks about fair market value. I mean, they're looking at so many different variables when it comes to acquiring a vehicle, but it's not just acquisitions, it's also marketing and retail of that vehicle. It is not 5 years ago. It's not, throw a Silverado on your lot and hope it sells. I mean, people are doing the virtual walkarounds. There's so many more guarantees now as a buyer, as a public buyer. So, as far as the news I just think that some dealers are doing so much better than half of the other dealers, that with these analytic driven managers, that's compensating. Because I mean, I can think of many dealers off the top of my head that are struggling, that are hurting, that are wondering what's going wrong, and they're looking at the numbers that you're talking about, and they're saying,
Why not me?
Yeah, why not me? What's going on? I've got a great buyer that's been working here for 20 years. In this business, it's meritocracy. It's not what you did 20 years ago. It's not what you did 10 years ago. It's what you did last week. Like the acquisitions that you bought this morning are going to directly affect how your dealership is doing for the rest of the month. And the management of those vehicles after they get to your lot is definitely going to affect the success of your dealership. And, it's dealership life has changed. I mean, sales consultants aren't working bell to bell 7 days a week. Dealerships are becoming more accommodating. So you're starting to see a different type of manager. You're not starting to see the drill sergeant that's, you need to sell 2 cars today or you're fired. There's a lot more, and that does exist, but I would say that those dealerships are probably not doing as well as the ones that are investing in training and process and analytics driven acquisitions.
What I wonder is, I mean, I think it's safe to say it's still a small number of dealerships that are truly what I classify as savvy and innovative with their process. But I can't help but wonder if part of the reason why the used car market is performing well, obviously it can be multiple factors, but maybe one of them is because of the consumer's access to vast amounts of data. They can command better, a better value for themselves, and the dealers that know that are able to make it work. So that competition might be fueling itself to create that good, helping to create the good market.
No, I think what you say is kind of one of those things that everybody would love to do. Very few can do. I mean, like I think, in a race to the bottom type atmosphere where, consumers don't really know so much about the business as they do the pricing model or the vehicle that they want. So then they're going to spend a little bit more time looking all over the country to find the deal that they want on the vehicle that they want, black leather navigation. And then they're going to probably have a little bit more negotiating room. But I don't think a typical dealer might say, by looking at analytics, and you've probably heard this, everybody's heard it, cars at auction are going for more than what the analytics say that I can sell them for. Like analytics says 28 and it did 27.5 at the auction. I can't make any money. I mean, the numbers say this, but how do I get these cars to supply that demand driven by the analytics? That's that's a big question. You know, I mean, I think since I've been in the business, everybody says that the first step to succeeding is acquisition. That, you know, you make your car at the acquisition, and you make your money at the acquisition.
Yeah.
It's heavily based on that, but it's not all based on that, because once you have it, then everything else comes into play.
Well, it's knowing what to buy and at what price. If you take an incremental strategy, right?
Right.
Now, if you take the strategy of just buy what you can and move it, retail or wholesale, and make it about the units and the overall volume, you know, two different approaches there. We're going to get to these reports in a moment, guys. So hopefully you have things ready on your end. I had a couple things to bring up with you, Aaron. The Manheim Used Car Index is reporting to have its first decline since January of 2017. Its first year-over-year decline. What does that mean from your standpoint? How does that affect you, and what kind of indicator is that for you?
It's kind of what I just said. I mean, some dealers are hurting. I mean, the ones that are hurting are slowing down. They've got, you know, they're in that situation where they've got a bubble of inventory that's at 60, 90, maybe even longer, depending on their age inventory. And what a typical dealer will do at that point will try to move the inventory through Manheim or various other auctions. And they're absolutely buried in these things. I mean, they bought it 2 or 3 months ago when the book was $3 or $4 grand higher. They put 2 to 3 to, I mean, sometimes even more in reconditioning costs in these things. So now they've got a situation where they've got to dump, let's say, just on an average 10 to 20 cars at the end of that month, and each one of them is a potential $3,000 to $4,000 loss, if not more. You know, I've seen it at auctions. I've talked to dealers. Oh, you know, I'm losing 10 grand. Can you meet me halfway? And it's, you know, the savvy acquisitions expert are not going to meet you halfway. I mean, there's no way to get out of that vehicle other than to, you know, let it go. I mean, there's no way to recover that loss. And
Sure.
There's various things that you can do. In larger groups, you can move inventory to a different store. You can remarket it. You can, you know, some dealers will trade inventory, you know, accordingly, which is kind of the concept of a larger group moving it to sell it within, so they can, you know, compensate some of that recon cost. But for the guys that don't belong in the large groups, you know, one car single point franchise, you know, very small groups, independents, you know, outside of their market, the only way to get rid of that is, you know, the various methods that are afforded to us now. ACV, that comes to your lot, which makes it a little bit easier. Manheim, America's, ADESA, but all of them are pretty close to the same until you built your reputation and, you know, really kind of showed what your product is. I mean, selling on a wholesale market is just as tough as selling to a retail market. I mean, the cars have to be presentable. There's a marketing strategy that goes involved that's totally separate from retail, and you need somebody to also manage that effectively. I think, you know, a lot of the gurus out there are talking about pricing aggressively from day one. And once they start getting into that 40-day range, you know, and monitoring the VDPs, SRPs, adjusting the pricing, you know, a lot more people are starting to finally kind of figure out what that means, like, and try to minimize the margin compression that everybody has seen, and, you know, since the internet, really.
So let me get your opinion on this. There's an article on Auto News suggesting that more car shoppers will fly to buy a bargain. Now, 2 weeks ago, on my podcast, my guest, he came on because he had just purchased a used vehicle from an out-of-state dealer.
Right.
His criteria was stringent. and he knew exactly what he wanted. It really narrowed down the selection for him. He found a dealer on eBay that within about a week's time, he felt comfortable with going with a all electronic transaction. So he had the vehicle delivered to him, I think from Florida to up here
Okay.
in Chicago. That's not an uncommon scenario, I presume, right?
No, but I think you start talking about a very niche market. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to fly for a 2013 Toyota Corolla. I would venture to say whatever he bought was probably rare. And
he didn't fly in this case. He had it delivered to him.
Well, even that, I mean, like just like if you're going to an auction and we're talking about fulfilling these analytics driven acquisition strategies, if I went to an auction with a shopping list per se of, F-150, Silverado, Dodge Ram, the top 5 that were on the analytics for Texas, if I went there and there were 10 other buyers that were doing the same thing that I was doing, they put their little shopping list together, they went to the auction, we're all looking for the top analytic driven vehicles. Well, if all 10 of us are in a fight and all 10 of us bid at the same time, then that vehicle automatically increases in value $1,000. Like it just, that's the way it happens. That's the math. $100 a bid. If it's a $250 bid, then it's a $2,500 increase in value. And that just doesn't work. But same on the consumer side, if he was looking for that, I don't know, 2006 Porsche 911 Carrera, whatever it is, I mean, I can go to an auction, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be there. And I can go to another auction and that doesn't mean that it's going to be there. I mean, dealers pull cars there all the time. So I think the consumer can actually look for what they're actually in the market to buy. I mean, I'm looking to buy an 85 Bronco. Yeah, I'm probably flying out to get it. I mean, transportation is more effective. Flights are cheap. People can shop online for flights. I mean, people can shop online for transportation too. So, any one of those factors could make it worth a flight to go pick up a vehicle. If I saw a vehicle that I was really interested in Florida, low miles, just met the criteria, then, yeah, I mean, I'd take it to Florida and go pick it up.
Would you drive it back or transport it?
Because I'm in the business, I probably wouldn't fly. I'd probably get some sort of condition report, evaluation, and I'd probably just have a transporter bring it to me.
Sure.
Like at some point, you kind of know enough about what you're buying that it's not one. But as a retail customer, I can put myself in their shoes, and I can say, yeah, I mean, I have flown to Florida and bought a vehicle, and I've driven it back. Before I was ever in the business. So I wouldn't do it again, but I've done it.
I mean, for luxury brands, especially new cars, someone will fly out to get their vehicle. I think on used cars, yeah. I mean, maybe not your everyday car, but
right.
Something that's rare and a little bit higher end. Now because you're not a franchise dealer, you don't have, you can't certify cars through the OEM. Do you have a dealer certification that you offer?
The retail outlet that we use as a certification process, 125-point inspection. Yes.
Inspection, so it's certified in that it's
properly. Well, that's what the certification is. It's just an inspection. Yeah. I mean, like
it meets
an OEM certifying that they buying a Honda certified product doesn't mean that it's any better of a vehicle. It's they've gone through and they've checked off every check mark that this meets the criteria for Honda certified. I mean, they can make it certified by putting a little bit more money in it, and they have to pay for that inspection certification process. But I mean, you putting your stamp of approval, and I mean, it's almost the same thing, really.
So let's do this, folks. We're going to bring Guy back on. I suggested he shut his camera off since he really wasn't in that part of the conversation. We're going to bring Guy Campbell back on. Guy's from Market Check, and he's put together some reports for showing some top selling units. So Guy, we'll go ahead and let you share your screen. And folks, even if you're not on the live session, if you have questions, you can use the comment section wherever you're watching this to post your questions, and we can certainly get back to you. These are reports that can be tailored and customized to your likeness, if you will. So if you see something you like and want more information like this, definitely let me know. We've put together a program for used car managers to start having access to information like this. So Guy, go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah.
And then Aaron, I think for your sake, feel free to pick and prod at some of the data and either challenge it or, opine on it.
Yeah, totally. So kind of like Ryan's saying, this is just a real basic report, and I'm looking for more feedback too. So I'd rather have all the dealers tell me what they want to see than, just telling you what you want to see. So just a basic report. This one is nationally the top selling used models. It's just for this week of October 28th through November 4th. So this is a weekly report that could be provided. We're looking at the top models that were the most sold. This is the average days on market, average price, and average miles.
And this is in the last week?
So right now we have like a week delay because we're scraping 53,000 dealer websites every 24 hours to get this data. And so once a car is pulled down off the dealer's website, we don't necessarily want to call it sold right away in case it pops up somewhere else within the next day. So we usually go off of a week, but we have some clients that want to see every 24 hours and they count all of it and they're looking at trends that way, It's really just up to you how you'd like to see it, But with the week delay, we've seen that it's like pretty spot on accurate to other like some people have compared it to what they've gotten directly from OEMs,
If a vehicle goes offline for a week or even two, what is that an indicator of, that it's a dealer trade? When it comes back?
If it doesn't come back, then it is sold most likely.
Well, if it doesn't come back, but I'm saying if you see it come back.
Yeah, then it's probably a wholesale or trade or whatever, or it was sent to auction,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that way we're also tracking, where the trades are going from, because we'll see who the other dealer is that got the car too. And so you can kind of see who they're sourcing their inventory from or selling it to, And then this could go so much further too, though, just as far as with trims and also looking at different cities,
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how this compares. Are you able to keep two reports up, like switch back and forth pretty easily?
I've just got these different tabs right now because they're in
okay, good.
PDF.
So I mean, that's nationally. So Aaron, from your vantage point, is a top selling list like this at the national level, how useful is that for you? Do you need more localized data?
As it sits, not very effective. But that's just as it sits. I think the one more localized would be definitely more beneficial. And then even further than that, starting to really dig into mileage buckets. Like I see that the average miles is that, but the mileage buckets and the actual trims, like, so is I see nationally the F-150s are selling very quickly. Are those all work trucks selling to large commercial vendors? We have Doggett Ford here that provides, everywhere we go in Houston that we see a large construction job, I see nothing but white Doggett Ford trucks. That's got to drive that number up. But those are all XLs or XL2. Yeah. So, like something like that, I'd really be interested in seeing that. Or on the flip side, we're looking at average days to market. Are those selling quicker? Are the platinums with low miles selling quicker? Are the platinums with high miles selling quicker? Because we definitely have that market here in Houston. A 2016 truck with 100,000 miles will still sell at the right price. So, what does that do? How do we get to the average miles? I'd just like to see some supplemental reports to the.
Can I bring up the Texas one?
Yeah. Well, and one other thing to add is ideally, I mean, we already have the data for it. Really, it's just putting this product together. But ideally, with our data, you could click through to here and see which dealers sold each one of these, which dealers sold the most, and then also separate by trim.
And that's kind of what I was talking
miles,
about.
buckets, like you're saying. Yeah.
A little bit earlier. It's not, as we've gotten a better technological product and we've gotten better reports, you're going to start to see the rise of a used car manager that's more of an analyst. Like when I first got into business, everybody was really proud to be a car guy, or, I know a lot about cars, or, I know all the trims and I know all the horsepowers and I know like the difference between S63 AMG competition package. I know all those things, but those things are really, they are important as a used car manager or as a used car operator, but they're not entirely, I wouldn't say that's the most important thing. I think the most important thing is how the manager interprets this data and how they dig into it and what their processes are to see, what kind of plan they're going to make for making their dealership successful. Looking at a report like this, I think as a juvenile UCM, you could probably go out and make a lot of mistakes. Digging down into supplemental reports, seeing why these numbers are the way they are. Actually, now this is a retail market. I think supplementing that with versing yourself in a wholesale market, which is what you can acquire vehicles for. And there's kind of two wholesale markets. There's a wholesale market dealer auction, and there's a acquisition trade market. They're all wholesale, but I think they're completely two different strategies. So
if let me interject here. Let's just imagine you're drilled down deeper. You see the trim levels and it's more geocentric to maybe a major metro market. Actually, you have Chicago set up, right?
Yeah.
Don? Maybe let's look at Chicago. So Aaron, if you could see the trim, and so you could see the ranking at the specific trim level, then from there you could drill down and even though you're seeing the listing price, at least that's the demand. That tells you that the demand for that is high, right?
Yes. And there's two types of demands. I think most dealerships would agree that some people come in on one car and then there's a vehicle that customers get approved for. So I'd like to even see, is that an organic demand or is that a vehicle that it just has a very high level of approval? Are the customers being driven to these sales, or is this just something that, Nissan acceptance or Nissan financial is giving you all the approvals on? Because like anything else, we can manipulate the demand for vehicles if we're switching customers and if we're doing things like that in the automotive business. I want to see what I'd like to see on a retail platform, analytics driven, is like, what did the customer actually come in on that vehicle and close on that vehicle, or was the quote just an affordable option?
Yeah, one thing to point out too, though, is like with the listing price, we're not telling what's happening in the dealership and what the car is actually sold for. This is just how many vehicles they had posted up online that were pulled down and they were listed at this price. So this is the price you'd need yours listed at to drive the traffic to your dealership,
Right.
After that, the dealership, how they close and handle their customers,
Aaron,
so that's based on the listing, not on the actual sales price.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Where do you go to help decide what you want to buy? And is it a daily or a weekly process for you?
It's an everyday process. And it's like, I'm super analytics driven. So I'm looking at things similar to this every day, pretty much all day.
And what kind of criteria are you looking for? Obviously, you're looking for vehicles at the trim level. So you're getting
Not
that.
really. To kind of shift gears, acquisitions is something that we'll buy anything at the right price. Like my main role or objective is to make sure that I am versed in the markets, both retail and wholesale, so that way I know what the acquisition point is and how that translates into things like this.
And before you buy, I mean, when you say you'll buy anything at the right price, so that's based off of what the market will get, what you believe you can get for it from the market.
Well, I mean, you have, as an acquisitions professional, you have to have an exit strategy. So
Yeah.
I decide based on the conditions, like what is it going to do, how much recon it's going to take. Is this one actually going to be a certifiable unit, or is this something that we're going to have to liquidate? You know, there's about 3 different markets that you need to be aware of. One wholesale, one recon, and then also the retail, marketplace.
So folks, we're going to wind down here. I don't see any questions coming through. Troy did throw out there how do successful dealers source inventory, which I know we talked about early on as far as of buying vehicles off the street from private party sellers. We talk about that.
Yeah, no, to add on to that, I think it starts at the dealership level, and private party is absolutely crucial, but I think that most dealers would agree that the trades are not what they used to be. There's a lot more competition for the private parties. So where do dealers source great inventory? They source it from their service drive and from their sales consultants. That has to be part of your acquisition strategy, is to get your store bought into acquisitions. Everybody in that store needs to acquire vehicles to sell vehicles. It should not just be, a buyer or a UCM's responsibility to go raise their hand at an auction. Everybody in the store that's trying to sell cars should be asking for the referrals. Do they know anybody that's trying to sell their car? Do they have any friends that'd like to buy a car? These are all dealership processes to increase sales, and a lot of people have gotten away from that. But the more that you put out there that's what your mission is, or that's what your company objective is to buy great quality cars, the more quality cars you're going to buy. It's just bottom line. Service drive, sales consultants, trades, engaging all the marketplaces. That's how I would recommend getting the cleanest, nicest inventory.
I like that idea. I mean, it's, companies like Auto Alert specialize in, sorry, let me fix this view here, specialize in helping dealers see opportunities of service drive customers who are better off flipping.
And there's actually a lot of people that don't use that.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I guess what I'm getting at is
Auto Alert actually comes from their own, their own DMS or whatever service drive information. There's many dealerships out here are missing many opportunities to great. I mean, Auto Alert's a great product that could help you gain another. I mean, depending on the size of your service drive. I mean, I see some people buying 50 a month. I
use Auto Alert as an example of helping dealers identify opportunities to get service drive customers to flip. But I like your idea of asking, your service customer, hey, do you have any friends that are trying to sell their car?
Yeah. Right? All you got to do is ask.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's amazing, like what you will get in this business if you just ask. I mean, like pretty much every one of my neighbors at this point has a friend that's like, hey, I've got an aunt that's trying to sell her car. Would you help her out? Yeah. I mean, I'll tell her what I can do for her. I mean, it's just that simple. If a dealership did that as many times as I do that, then they buy 50 cars a month. I mean,
I've often used the analogy, a lot of times when you go to department stores and retail stores. So like Target, Walmart, Nordstrom, Kohl's. I'm trying to think these types of stores where we're going and buying things. The cashiers at the register.
Yeah, that's an amazing example.
Yeah, they're so disciplined. Would you like to save 30% today, or would you like to save 10% today?
That's what my wife says every time. Yes.
But it's that discipline. So I can see at a dealership, if everyone at the dealership, when they're interfacing with a customer, were to simply say, do you know someone that needs to sell their car? You're going to get more cars. It's a great idea.
It's, I mean, something that I really kind of preach and help some of the dealers that I consult with is, very, very easy strategies to really start getting managers and employees involved with. And it's just amazing when you get somebody bought into those strategies, the complete difference that you're going to see in your dealership.
Yeah, Aaron, what comes to mind for me too is we call it a CRM cleanse, where you can take a dealer's all their sold VINs that are in their CRM and search it to see if it's popped up anywhere else, including for sell by owner listings and any other dealer listings. And what we're finding with the dealers that have used this is that sending out mailers still to people who either traded in their car back to them or somewhere else, and they don't even have the car anymore, and you can get all those results back and even start calling to the people that didn't trade their car and find out why they maybe didn't come back to your dealership,
No, all of it is what the business has evolved to. I mean, it is not simple anymore. And it is 100% about getting the right information and the right data, the right customers that you've already possibly engaged. And I think the more and more that dealers are getting involved in this and actually investing in this, it's not free. It's very difficult for somebody to just kind of come up and enjoy the idea and then not see any results. And then, they're back to their old ways. And that's why I said in the beginning, I'm seeing 50% of the dealerships in Houston really evolving, doing things right, getting trades, selling cars. It's like the wild, wild west out here. Everybody's having a good time. And then it's like the dark side. You go to some other dealerships and everybody's sitting around, everybody's sad, everybody, what are we doing? I'm going to get a new job. Well, this business has changed. That's all I can say. And, as we adapt analytics and data-driven processes, I think that the strong are going to show who they are.
And that takes effort. Well, listen, with that, I'll put a bow tie on this. Guy, thanks for preparing the reports, and we'll try to get some feedback between now and the next month or so to come back with different examples of reports, and maybe even a CRM cleanse would be a good idea so people can see what that looks like, and we can talk through that. Aaron, always appreciate your input. It's great having you back here. So thanks for taking the time.
You guys. Nice to meet you, Guy.
Yeah, you too, Aaron.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Bye, Aaron.
All right. See you guys.
So folks, what I'm going to do is just go back to sharing my screen before we head out. So again, we do this every month, typically about the second Thursday of each month. If you're subscribed to autoconverse.com, then you'll get an email notification to get an idea of who's coming on and what we plan to talk about. If you want to participate on the back end, you can join here on the Zoom webinar portion and kind of be part of the conversation. You can even come up here and be part of that. So just follow the link to register, and that'll prompt you. And once you register once, then you're always registered. You don't have to keep, it's not per session, you're just always registered. And let me apologize. I thought I had the page up for you. Here it is right here. Bring that up. Now, again, these are recorded and we feature them on the AutoConverse podcast. Great podcast listening info. So if you listen to podcasts, take a moment now to search for AutoConverse in your podcast app and subscribe. This is one of 6 different programs that we run around auto retail. And so all of these sessions like this are featured on the podcast. Here's the registration page for you. Once this live stream ends, the video becomes unlisted, meaning you have to have a link to the video to see the archive. And there's a couple different ways to get that link. For one, you can make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. In fact, here on the sign up page is a link over to the YouTube channel. So if you subscribe, then every time we go live, you will get a link to that as well. And when you sign up, we'll send you a link to our member network, and there's where we put all the archives to the shows as well. Thanks again. Have a great week. Hope you have an awesome month. There's one more month left in the year after this, so it's getting real, and have a fun season coming on board. I'm Ryan Girardi. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and we'll see you next month.